What up? Wade here. Welcome back to the Wade Alter Show. So today what we're going to talk about is entrepreneurship, being your own boss, internet marketing, the myths associated with it. And for all the guys out there that have a job or stuck in a business that isn't giving them the freedom that they want, or the meaning that they want, or the passion that they want, this podcast is for you. Because what I'd like to do after working with dozens of clients who quit their jobs, started a business, or had the side business and wanted to move it full time, or really make it where it could give them the lifestyle that they wanted, I've noticed that the same mistake I made when I got into this is that you fall into what I'd like to call the grass is always greener sort of phenomenon, in that entrepreneurship, starting your own business, it looks great when you have all these sort of marketing myths and legends about what it is, and passive income, and creating your own ATM machine, alchemy, where you're creating gold from nothing, and you can just be an information marketer, and things just happen, and you can be a coach and do what's meaningful and live the lifestyle that you want. I want to get into some of these myths and show you what it really takes, what is totally possible, because it all is totally possible. I would never turn back at this point, but to tell you the truth, if I would have known going into it what it would have taken, it would have been a little bit better to, I guess, know some of these things ahead of time. And that's really what I would like to do in this podcast. So first off, I want to get into two quotes and what they specifically highlight. They're from two incredibly successful entrepreneurs. We'll go with Paul Graham first. And so he's the creator of Y Combinator, which is the most successful, famous incubator in San Francisco for startups. He obviously knows a little bit about startups, entrepreneurship, and helping people through that process. And what he says is running a startup is basically like being punched in the face repeatedly. But working for a large company is like being waterboarded. And I haven't worked for a large company, but I can imagine that if you're stuck in that dull job where you're just kind of trucking along, it is basically like waterboarding, where every day, you're not getting punched in the face, but just those little pangs of losing control and pangs of just kind of boredom and pangs of not reaching your potential really is torture when you look back 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. That being said, I completely understand the aspect of a startup or just any small business, in that I feel every day you get punched in the face. And just when you think you got things figured out, the next fire blows up. Some employee does something. One of your lead sources completely dries up or disappears or doubles in price or 10x's in price. All sorts of crazy nonsense things that were literally every single day something new is coming up. But the thing is that the end of all that, that's what makes business great, in the fact that you're constantly solving new things and constantly evolving. And you look back 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and you're like, holy shit, look at this beautiful thing I've created. More on that in a second, but let's dive into the second quote, which is from an even more successful entrepreneur, maybe one of the most of our generation, Elon Musk. And what he says is being an entrepreneur is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. And I would say through and through that the process of looking ahead, yes, you want to be sort of calculated in your approaches and having that lean startup validated learning approach to iterating and growing and looking at that business where you're constantly growing and evolving. But on the other side of things, man, you're just looking at, and you have no idea really what the future could offer. You have no idea what the macro economy is going to do to your little baby business, or if some competitor comes in. And especially with today's modern day society and technology, things are evolving so fast. We've used Facebook ads and we're using that. All of a sudden, Facebook ads completely shifts and changes. SEO completely shifts and changes. You're using YouTube, it shifts and changes. Those things are changing so daily at this point that, again, that's just that punch you in the face, eating glass phenomena where your gums are bleeding from the fact that you're constantly just running around like a chicken with its head cut off dealing with this. And of course, things like strategy come huge into play here. Things like work-life balance, so that you don't kind of beat your head against the wall dealing with this stuff. Having that balance is what helps out, and having discipline to not just put out any fire that gets in front of you, having a strategic approach instead of kind of just day-to-day running around, putting out fires, a tactical approach is not the way to go. But that's not what this one's about. What I really want to get into more is just, I guess, the nitty-gritty of what entrepreneurship is. And to kind of look at what the opposite is, going back to the Paul Graham quote, we have the whole waterboarding process related to working at a large company. And let's look in at what the corporate ladder really is about. The corporate ladder, what this is put in place for is for security. It's put in place to give you a visual idea of step by step what you need to do so you don't have to worry, have anxiety, or concern or insecurity, really the opposite of security, about what your future looks like. And I think back to myself, this is back when I was in college, I'm thinking, I'm going to be a doctor, because it was just this very logical step-by-step process of you go to school, you have job security, you move up, and maybe you start a practice and you can make more money and you just go through that. And it's very visual. You can see it. It's right there in front of you. And so large companies, they do this on purpose. I mean, maybe it's a little bit organic. They're not completely like sort of the behind the scenes Illuminati trying to swindle people and persuade them, but they're trial and error. They've learned that when you have that very in your face sort of visual guideline of the ladder of I do this, and if I do that, and I check off at my performance review, I get a 10% raise and a 10% bonus. And the next year I do the same, I get another 10% or 5% or whatever it is. It gives you so much security that you can finally relax. And for a lot of people, if career isn't the number one thing, let's say family is more important to you, or the side business that you're starting, or your health, or anything else, travel, whatever it is, that security allows you to use that mental bandwidth in other things. And so that can be a really great thing for some people. And if that's for you, awesome, go for it. Just know that that's what's going on there. But for a lot of people, that's not what they really want. They have that security as a habit, and they're just kind of driven to have security, but they're still unhappy. And what you need to do is not think about, okay, how do I find a secure idea to start a business and have security there? It's not an issue of not making mistakes. That eating glass, you got to eat the glass. You got to stare into the abyss, and you got to get punched in the face over and over again. And the only way that you do that is not by making it easier, it's by growing stronger. And that's why I love being a part of like the veteran society of entrepreneurs, because it truly is when you see somebody that has, a growing, successful business, the more employees they have, usually the more centered they are, the more sure of themselves they are, because they dealt with just so much more shit. And that might sound a little bit scary, or I guess like doomsday view of entrepreneurship, but it's really actually empowering from the perspective, if you're not where you need to be yet, instead of waiting around for the idea, focus on building more responsibility, getting comfortable making mistakes, getting comfortable taking on bigger risks, because that's really what it comes down to. Entrepreneurship, at the end of the day, it just gives you the ultimate form of freedom. Your destiny is completely in your hands. You have the freedom, the financial freedom. You have the freedom to work when you want. Of course, you have customers to talk, like they become your boss instead of your boss telling you what to do. But there's a way of like, if you get creative, you can create whatever lifestyle you want, live wherever you want, and all that. But to trade in security for freedom, you also trade in being able to turn it off on the weekends to taking on full responsibility. And so you're completely responsible for everything in your life. And when that safety net disappears, let me tell you, shit gets a little bit scary. And so like for myself, I was on some level an entrepreneur, like a wannabe entrepreneur back before I started my own business, where it wasn't like I was just getting an hourly rate or anything like that. I had clients, and the more clients I had, the more I'd make, and the more I build my brand, the more clients I'd get because of that. But at the end of the day, there were still leads coming in. And when you go off and you do your own thing, finding those customers, finding those clients, and not having anyone kind of saying, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it, I'll get it. On the other side of it too, having employees and vendors and people that are waiting for you to sort of like, if you fail, you don't only fail yourself, you fail other people, as well as having a family and people's mouths to feed and stuff like that too. The level of responsibility just goes through the roof, especially as you grow and have even more success. And so again, that's not something to be afraid of. And that's not something I want to put out there for you to say, okay, I guess this isn't right for me. What I'm saying is, now look at what do I need to develop from a personality standpoint so that I can handle this. And this is like, in the baseline course, we do a lot of things where you're pushing into your comfort zone, getting a little bit more comfortable with social pressure. Because when shit hits the fan, you as the business owner are the one that has to make shit happen. You're the one who has to bring the cash register and keep that company afloat and do whatever it takes. And it really is, again, empowering from the fact that you can't fail unless you give up. This is something I got out of The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, talking about pivoting and the fact that you want to be agile. You want to be always evolving and listening and getting feedback from the economy, getting feedback from your customers and your vendors, saying, oh, okay, it's time to tweak things a little bit here. That's how things happen. It's through this constant sculpting process. And I guess this gets into another one of those sort of myths or things I'd like to dispel about entrepreneurship, is that I remember when I was 28 years old. I was just turned 28. It was May. I was living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And again, I was a contractor, was running seminars, but it wasn't my thing completely. And I remember thinking, I'm 28 years old. I got a great work ethic. I know I'm super smart. And if that idea just came up, I know I could implement and kill it. I know I could just be awesome and super successful. I just need the idea. And this gets back to the Elon Musk quote that you just grinding on that glass in your mouth and staring off into the abyss. The abyss doesn't give you the answer. The answer comes from slamming your head against the wall, from solving problems. An entrepreneur, you're a problem solver. That's what you're doing. You're constantly evolving. And it's that evolution and sculpting from each one of those little things that goes wrong. You look at it as a total machine. It's a system. And there's all these little wheels that are squeaking and all the gears are squeaking. And you got to go and you grease this one, you grease that one, you change this, you change that. You maybe create new products. You create different things. You change the marketing. You change your customer base. You change the software that you're using. You change the systems. You hire more people. You realize that's not the way. You change your training process. And you look back years later and you're like, oh my God, look at what I've created here. But if I look ahead, again, it's staring off into that abyss. So don't be waiting around for the perfect idea. Instead, focus on growing and just as like I said, those personal skills that you need to become stronger, to handle risk, to handle being able to fly by the seat of your pants and to trust yourself, to be unapologetic, to self-promote yourself, really be able to put yourself out there in different contexts and go do that now before all of a sudden the idea comes along. And what'll happen is you'll have the network then because you'll be reaching out to people and pushing your comfort zone there. You have more comfort in dealing with social pressure because you'll be negotiating with things like your boss or taking on new responsibilities, leadership roles at work and things like that. And then you can be off learning the skills, the marketing skills and all these different skills and sales processes and reading the sales books and persuasion books so that when the time comes, when the idea is there, you already can see, you can visualize it in your mind, put it down on paper, what that business plan would look like and how that actually would turn in from an idea to a proven concept. So this is something I could riff on forever. There was another aspect of this that I really wanted to get into for us in our current day society, and that's specifically internet marketing. And I guess the reason why this one is just so important to me, the myth to dispel here is that there is no such thing as internet marketing. It's not a business. I guess there is such a thing, but it's not a business type. Internet marketing, all it is a medium. All it is a traffic source. That would be like saying like if you had a shoe store on the street here and people are like, oh, what type of business you're in? You're like, oh, I'm in the walk-in street business, like the street sales business or something like that. It's like, no, you're in the shoe business, man. And you're getting your traffic from people walking in the doorway. When you have a business online, an online business is just sort of a format, but your traffic source can be any form. And ideally, in the way things are evolving now, you want that to be online and offline. It has to be a hybrid model because if you're doing any sort of real business and you want to grow and you want to have something that really sustains your lifestyle, you need to have something that isn't selling just $1 or $5 or $7 sort of offers. You're going to need high-end stuff. And to do that, somebody at some point is going to have to talk to someone to really feel comfortable and feel that you're a credible business, as opposed to just thinking you can create some sort of ATM machine where you slap together a website, put some stuff for sale on it, and all of a sudden, you got the lifestyle you want in a lifestyle business. And back in the day, this is where I think this myth really came from, is that 15 years ago, the first time I heard about this, I remember I had a client and it was in Edmonton, Canada. And I went to this guy's house. It was like the friend of the client. And this dude is like known. There's some people who are listening to this who knows this guy who at the time, this was like 2008. And so I go to this guy's house. First off, he's got a 70 or 80 inch TV in 2008. These things don't even exist. There's probably under 10 of them in the world at the time there. So who knows, 20, 30K for this thing. He's got a gigantic Shark Tank the size of my bedroom here in my condo. What else? He's got, he had an Escalade that he parks in his front yard like a rapper and multiple, like I think he had a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. And this dude is like mid-20s when he's doing all this stuff. And in this beautiful, beautiful house. And I was just like, what do you do that makes this happen? And what he did at the time was basically what happened was Oprah had Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz on saying acai berries were the new antioxidant, like life-saving thing. And so the whole world goes, I need to get some acai berry packets. And they created this service online. And before the FTC came along and really monitored the internet, what happened is you'd buy this like packet for $4.95 to get a trial version of acai berries. And then every 30 days, your credit card would be slammed for another $100 offer and then another $100 offer every 30 days after that. And if you tried to cancel, you couldn't. It got redirected to Bangalore, and some Indians were answering the phone and not letting you, cancel your request. And the only way you could literally get out of it was canceling your credit card. It was insane. But again, because the FTC wasn't involved yet, it was actually kind of legal. Although this guy got in a lot of trouble in the end, like literally jail time and tens of millions of dollars in fines because of this. But at the time I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I need to get in this whole internet marketing thing. That still kind of propagates out into what the myths of internet marketing is today. Today, it's just business. You're learning business. You're learning entrepreneurship. There is no such thing as internet marketing anymore. And if you come at me with the whole passive income sort of stuff, like, oh yeah, there's this great idea, SEO, it's a new form of passive income. Or you can go be a Udemy instructor and start creating courses, and then all those old courses are there and you don't even have to think about them, and you're still making money off of them. That is not passive income. If it didn't exist 6 months ago, it's probably not going to exist in 6 months. So don't think that just because you're not daily, it's not like the thing that's great about it. Let me show you this. The thing that's great about it is like you're not working hour for hour to where you have to work an hour and money comes in. So it's an amazing feeling where you're at sleep at night and all of a sudden you see that you had a sale overnight or you had a sale over the weekend when you're out just hanging out, drinking with your buddies. It's such an amazing feeling. But that happens. You do that as part of a business. You don't like think about this. The first form of, systemization or automation or delegation or things like that or passive income, it's called employees. If you have employees and you train them properly and you have systems in place, the business runs when you're not there. That's just business. That's not the internet that's making that happen. That's not some special software, some plugin, or some internet marketing strategy that makes that happen. That happens through tracking out businesses. And so the path that you want to take here is you want to look at all businesses. Like one of my clients yesterday, we were talking about books, and I recommended for him to read Titan by John D. Rockefeller. There's an example, like the amount that I learned way more from that than some Facebook advertising course when it comes to creating business and what I see as the foundation for what I'm doing or what I'm helping other guys with or modeling other even more successful businesses. Yes, you want to kind of get into some of that stuff to get started of seeing like, okay, what is my first step here? Okay, do I get Facebook ads? Do I get Facebook traffic? Or where does it all start? And then from there, I go, okay, what is business? And looking at direct marketers from the last 100 years, the Claude Hopkins, the Gary Halberts, even modern day guys, the Joe Polish and Dan Kennedy, and understanding, or Jay Abraham, and these sort of amazing marketers that really helped outgrow businesses. But it came from, it's offline and online. It's not like there's just one format here. And so let me tell you a little story. Here's kind of how I pictured my business would go. I'd create a website. You got to think of a name. So you find the .com and hopefully it's available. You get it up, you slap it together, you put a little nice WordPress theme on there, start studying a little sales copy, and you pick out a product or pick out a service. And then, you write it. It's not the best, but you get it to look pretty decent. And you studied enough sales copy that you think you got some features, you got some benefits. And at the end of it all, you put a little form so that you can fill out more information, or maybe you put a little PayPal link for a buy button. And this isn't how it's going to end up, but you just want to test it out and you want to see what happens. So what you want to do is you go to Facebook and you're like, okay, I'm going to create some Facebook ads. Here's another thing for me to learn. I can test this out a little bit, and I'm just going to, throw some cash at Facebook and see if I can get any guys to sign up or get any sales to come in. And you go off and you do it and nothing happens. And then you say, you know what? It's all right. Nothing happened here. I learned a little bit. All my goal is, and here's what the unicorn Facebook ad is. All my goal is for, if I can pay $1 for one person and I get $1 out, I'm breaking even. I've hit pay dirt. I've hit gold, because at the worst, I can all of a sudden use my credit card points, and that takes care of flights and it takes care of hotels and things like that. And all I want to be able to do is put $10 in and get $10.10 out. And I know that's all I'm going to take. But what happens is when you think about this, you're not thinking about the fact that $1 in for $1 out, that's only your advertising spend. But to do that, the level of sophistication that you need, the length of your funnel, and all the metrics and all the services that you're going to need in place, there's a lot of overhead. You're not thinking about payroll. And even more than that, and this is the one I think people forget the most, is you're not paying yourself, much less the taxes on yourself. And that doesn't even count for if you want to scale, because maybe you put $100 in and you get $100 out, but that doesn't mean you can just put $10,000 in a day and think you're going to get $10,000 out, because you're going to have to expand into new niches. You're going to have to build a longer term relationship when you're talking to colder and colder audiences, and then have multiple sort of investments or things, or, they always say it's 10 times harder to get a new customer than a repeat one. So you got to create a whole infrastructure and system for that repeat business as well. So I think it's just important to cut out the idea of the ATM business, cut out the idea of passive income, cut out the unicorn Facebook ad, and start looking at business for what it is, business. And so I guess to kind of finalize this, I would love to have you head over to the post on weightauthors.com for this. And if you guys have any questions, I'm totally down to dive deeper in this. I think at some point it could even lead to some sort of course or something like that. I'm definitely going to be doing some more inside of the syndicate. And so my goal with all this was not to scare you away from entrepreneurship. Truly, I believe it's one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself. I think it is the most empowered. The only thing that could come close is having the control over your dating life too. I think it's close to equal. You need both really as a man to be able to control your dating life and meet the girl you want and make her your girlfriend or do whatever you want there. And on the other side of things, when it comes to the business, to have that financial freedom, the lifestyle freedom, you need to have that entrepreneurial drive and to develop this and to shun security and take the risk. And so I guess to get started, like I said, I don't want to scare you away. I'm saying focus in on who you are, who you need to become, what personality traits you need to develop, what characteristics, the characteristics of pushing your comfort zone, being comfortable outside of your comfort zone, being the man who you can take on ownership and be unapologetic and promote yourself and push yourself and do whatever it takes to make success inevitable. So let's do this together. Jump on in, become an entrepreneur, but do it in the right way and know what it's going to take. Start developing those personality traits, start developing those skills and characteristics so that you're ready when that idea comes along. I'm here with open arms to embrace and help in any way that I can. Definitely give me some comments, give me some feedback on this so I can go even more in depth. As always, enjoy.